Today, we're going to unpack a single powerful principle that, honestly, separates the legendary companies from the ones that become cautionary tales. And we're going to do it by looking at some incredibly high-stakes business decisions, all coming from a great collection of stories called the Business Gambit. So let's just jump right in. Picture this. A multi-million-dollar contract just lands on your desk. This is huge. It could change everything for your company. But then, your team, the people who actually build your product, they come to you and say, this crosses a line. This goes against everything we say we stand for. What do? Do you take the money, or do you listen to your people? Now, this isn't just some business school hypothetical. This was the exact dilemma Google faced back in 2018. The Pentagon came to them with a massive deal called Project Maven. The goal? Use Google's incredible AI to make military drones more effective. We're talking a huge contract with potentially billions more down the line. But inside Google, it sparked an absolute firestorm. And what they chose to do really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. To really get why their decision was so important, we have to define a term that gets thrown around a lot but is often misunderstood in business: true empathy. And look, this isn't about being nice or, just feeling someone's pain. It's actually way more concrete and strategic than that. This definition right here is so key. It frames empathy not as some soft skill, but as a deliberate, strategic choice. It's about doing the hard work to figure out what truly matters, the core values of your team and your customers. And then, and this is the important part, having the guts to act on it, especially when it's going to cost you something. I mean, this quote just nails it, right? It's not about trying to make everybody happy all the time. That's impossible. It's about knowing what the non-negotiables are for the people who make your company run. It's about protecting those core beliefs even when there's a big price tag attached. Okay, so if that's true empathy, what happens when it's just not there? What does an empathy vacuum actually look like in the real world? Well, let me tell you, it's not pretty. It's basically where companies completely lose their way. And these two are perfect examples of what can go wrong. With WeWork, you had a total internal empathy failure. You had all these different departments, real estate, marketing, you name it, and they were all winning in their own little bubbles, but nobody stopped to ask what mattered for the company as a whole, and so they just burned through billions. And then there's Yahoo, a classic case of customer empathy failure. They just kept adding more and more and more stuff until they became this cluttered mess that was trying to be everything to everybody and ended up being nothing special to anyone. But okay, let's flip this. What does it look like when a company gets this right from the very beginning? There's this fantastic story of how focusing your empathy on a really, really small group of people can lead to something absolutely massive. So back in 2008, nobody, and I mean nobody, wanted to invest in Airbnb. The whole idea just sounded insane. Venture capitalists were literally looking at them and asking, who on earth would ever want to do this? It was just total rejection. The easy move would have been to pivot, right? To try and appeal to a broader audience. But they did the exact opposite. They practiced focused empathy. Instead of chasing some giant imaginary market, they obsessed over the tiny group of people who already got it and loved it. Designers who were going to conferences and couldn't afford the pricey hotels. They learned everything about them, what they needed, what they valued. They realized it wasn't just about a cheap place to crash. It was about connection and unique experiences. And it all comes down to this one number, 1,000. That's it. They didn't try to get 1 million users. They focused on serving 1,000 passionate users perfectly. They understood what mattered most to that tiny tribe. And you know what happened? That tribe became their word-of-mouth army, their evangelists who took the idea global. Now that is the power of focused empathy. So, how does this all circle back to Google and that billion-dollar choice? We've defined true empathy. We've seen what happens with and without it, so now let's go back and see how that story ended and what price they were ultimately willing to pay. So here's how it all went down. First, 4,000 employees put their careers on the line and signed a petition. They basically said, using our AI for this violates the whole don't be evil idea that this company was built on. And what's so crucial is that leadership actually listened. They didn't just dismiss it. They really weighed the money against their team's core values, and they made a choice. They walked away from the project. And then, to make it official, they published a new set of AI principles that flat-out banned using their tech for weapons. And this really shows you the incredible trade-off they made. The cost was real. I mean, they lost that initial $9 million contract and potentially billions in future defense work. But look at what they saved. that priceless, intangible thing, the trust of their people. They decided that was worth more. And that, right there, is the whole point of the story. They understood what mattered most to the people they served. In this case, their own engineers. These are people who came to Google because they believed their work could actually make the world a better place. And by siding with them, even at a huge financial cost, Google proved that value was real. That was true empathy in action. So I guess the question to leave you with is this. True empathy, the real kind, it always has a cost. It might be revenue, it might be a big client, but as we've seen, the price of not having it, of losing your team, your customers, and your entire direction, well, that can be infinitely higher. It really makes you think, doesn't it?